Kevin, J29 Creative Group.
Hey, I'm Gino with J29 Creative Group. So Kevin, we've been talking with a lot of businesses lately here, coming up on the end of the year. One of the big topics has been social media presence. So, one of the questions that I've got for you, what do you think is more important as far as social media? Do you think it's for B2B businesses or B2C, or do you think it's equally important for both of them?
I think it's really equally important, right? Just having a presence in general. I always tell people you have to be in some sort of social media today, like it or not, right? It's just where the people are at, right? Just no different than back in the days, people watch TV, therefore you should have a commercial. Or, hey, if people are emailing, then you should be email marketing, right? Marketing today is on these digital platforms because we spend 85 to 90% of our lives on these phones and devices.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, we've talked about it before. I've actually gone to look up businesses and seen that they haven't posted in a while and question whether they're even still in business or not, really, in this post-COVID world. So.
And people forget, right? Social media presence isn't necessarily, my grandkid does this, or my son and daughter. It's more for young people. It's no longer that, right? Think about it. The last time you went to a restaurant, you're looking up their social media to check out their food. Does it look good? Does this place look credible? Same thing with business, right? You want to see they have a website. Maybe they're on LinkedIn. And social media isn't just Instagram and TikTok. There's also LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and all these different platforms is considered social media.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things that we hear a lot is, how do you measure success with social media, right? So there's having the presence, but, is it worth it, right? Is it worth the time? Is it worth an investment if you have somebody else do it? So how can people even, measure or track their success with social media?
Yeah, and I think we talked about this last time, right, with Stephanie about like the ROI behind social media, and you have to be in it for the long game. You can't look at social media, you can't no longer look at it as a lead gen.
Right.
I think early, I would say 2000 to mid 2010, around that time, it was a lead gen thing, right? But, over time, over a decade, it has changed. It has morphed into something that's so different. It's really brand equity.
Absolutely.
Right? It's investing in trust, right? Just like you telling your staff that, hey, you need to be presentable, or a company have to have a good culture. How you present yourself, your presence online on your website back in the days is the same thing. You have to have that be presentable on social media, because that's kind of your first line of defense, right? So that might be the first thing people see. It's like going to a date in your underwear.
Absolutely. Yeah, so for some of those people that maybe, they don't know where to start, or, how to do social media, what tips do you think you would give them?
Yeah, social media is free, right? To pay an agency, it costs money. So it weighs out, hey, do you want to do it yourself, or do you want to hire experts to do it? But the issue is you can do it yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And I tell people, if you don't have it, you don't have it. If you can't afford a Mercedes, you're going to drive a Honda. And it's okay. But you got to start somewhere. But the issue is you can go so far along and it can do you more harm by setting it up wrong. So many times I see people get into this social media game and they build this huge following, okay? And then later on they figure out, it was tied to Johnny. Johnny used to work here 5 years ago. And now Kevin, I can't get in, but we have a 30,000 follower LinkedIn account or social Facebook account. So you have to have a plan in place when you're starting now. You don't want your social media to be tied to even your personal profile. What happens when you want to sell it? Your business. So people aren't thinking along those lines when they start their social media journey. And it's all important governance things Example, you set up legal procedures within your organization. So my question to you is, if social media is the future of your marketing, why wouldn't you set up the right way from the start?
Absolutely. You want to get that roadmap to success, really, is what it is with social media.
Yeah. So I highly suggest talking to a professional, like, hey, I'm starting this business, I'm setting up these new accounts. If you don't know how to do it, then have some help, guide you. And I don't mean you have to be on a retainer or anything, right? Have someone set it up correctly from the get-go. And then see where, hey, if you can afford it, highly recommend. Don't waste your time, right? It's like me, right? If you had me go hang a TV, it'll probably fall off the wall. And then I'll end up having to buy that $2,000 TV, which has happened. Or you can hire a handyman. It's extra expense, right? It might be $200, but it's much better than losing your $2,000 TV.
Absolutely. And how much time did you spend on hanging up that TV before you had to call the...
Probably a good 4-hour procedure before my drywall completely came down. And then I didn't just have to hire someone to hang the TV, I had to hire someone to repatch my drywall because you can see my kids' room from the other side.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, we talk about the cost and where to start, but the time that goes into it on the backside is something else that people don't maybe realize at the front, or they don't think about, how much time actually goes into your social media to have that presence.
Yeah, people pay for attorneys today to protect their business. People pay for HR resources to do like ADP, different things, to do payroll. Why wouldn't you hire a professional if marketing is shifting to an online presence like social media? Why wouldn't you set it up correctly, right? It's a cost center that you should spend. It's an investment. And people forget that because they're so used to, oh, it's this free thing that young people do. But if you're doing it for business, it's your brand. It's the cost of your brand.
Yeah, it's almost like your digital storefront, right? Is kind of the way to look at it, right? I mean, people put into so much into their brick and mortar locations and having those look good and having that good customer experience as soon as people walk in the door. But sometimes that social media or that digital storefront is kind of
when people go to your social media, they should be able to experience your service, your people, your product. It's so much more than posting a pretty picture.
Right.
It's honestly like you have to understand also the algorithm, right? It has its own language, right? Every platform's different. What I see a lot of people do is they'll post the exact same thing on Instagram as it is on Meta, as it is on TikTok and LinkedIn, right? You have to, even if you post the same thing, the language or the way you word things might be just a tad different, right? So you have to know those things.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's where coming, and consulting with a professional really makes a huge difference. That, Kevin, if a business owner didn't want to do social media themselves, if they don't have the time or they don't really know what they're doing and they'd like to pass it on to an agency like ours, what does that kind of thing cost?
Yeah. To be honest, remember web, 1.0, 2.0, during the early days of websites, right? Things were all over the board. That's where it is today in social media. And it is really hard to know, who do you trust? Everyone's a guru with this stuff. And what is the expense that I'm gonna spend? Because as a business owner, I understand I would like to know my monthly costs. It sucks when you're a small to medium business that a lot of social media companies would tell you oh, it just depends on the amount of video, the amount of content. No one can give a solid answer. So I always recommend find a company that's very transparent and is looking out for you. You really need to look at, hey, they need to meet you where you're at because everyone's cost for marketing is different, right? So you have to tell them. It has to be a company that will listen on what you need, right? And then that cost has to match, right? Like with J29 Creative Group, we make it really simple. It's very transparent. I don't care if you're small, large. We have the social media cost calculated. So you can go on the red website, click on the red tab. I don't want your number. I don't want your email. I can care less, right? It's just a calculator, so business owners can just play around on it, get it to where you think you might need it. And when you're ready, submit your information, send it to us, and then, hey, someone like Gino will contact you and then meet you where you're at, and then also kind of advise you or consult you on your needs, right? So find an agency that truly care. You want someone on your team.